There are moments in life when your heart is full of prayers, but your mouth is tired of speaking them. Moments when you have asked, hoped, and believed for so long that silence feels safer than faith. You look around and wonder if anyone truly sees the battle you are fighting, the desire you carry, the dream that refuses to die even when circumstances scream that it is impossible. But hear this truth with all your soul before you ever found the words. Before you ever knelt in prayer, before you ever shed a tear, God already knew what you want. God knows the desires that live deep within you, the ones you struggle to explain even to yourself. He knows the longing you hide behind a smile, the prayer you whisper late at night when no one else is listening. You may feel forgotten, overlooked, or delayed, but heaven has not lost track of you. There is no confusion in God's sight, no uncertainty in His understanding. He sees the whole picture when you only see the broken pieces. Many people believe that faith means never doubting, never fearing, never struggling. But faith is often born in the very place where fear tries to take control. Faith rises when everything looks impossible. Think of the countless times people stood at the edge of defeat, convinced that the door was permanently closed, only to discover that God was preparing an entrance they could not yet see. The impossible is not a dead end to God. It is a doorway. There is a battle that happens when what you desire clashes with what you see. Your eyes report failure, delay, and resistance. Your heart reports hope, calling, and promise. This is the battle of belief. Will you trust what is visible, or will you trust the God who works invisibly? When the battle feels intense, it is often because you are closer to breakthrough than you realize. God is not intimidated by your impossible situation. The size of your obstacle does not determine the size of His power. What seems unmovable to you is small in His hands. What feels delayed to you is often being developed by Him. Sometimes God waits, not because He is unwilling, but because He is working on timing, alignment, and purpose far beyond what you can imagine. There are people listening right now who have given up praying about something because it hurt too much to hope again. You told yourself it was better to let it go than to be disappointed one more time. But God has not forgotten that prayer. Time does not erase promises. Delay does not cancel destiny. Silence does not mean absence. God may appear quiet, but He is never inactive. Think about the seed buried in the ground. From the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. Days pass, storms come, heat presses down, and still there is no sign of life. But underground, unseen, something miraculous is taking place. Roots are forming. Strength is building. Growth is happening in secret. When the time is right, that seed breaks through the surface, and suddenly what looked dead is alive. In the same way, God is working beneath the surface of your life. You may be fighting a battle in your mind, replaying questions that have no easy answers. Why not now? Why not me? Why does it seem easier for others? These questions are human, but they are not final. God's plan is not a comparison game. What He is doing in you is uniquely designed for you. The road may be long, but the destination is certain when you place your trust in Him. God knows what you want, but more importantly, He knows what you need. Sometimes He allows the battle to stretch you so your faith can grow strong enough to carry the blessing you are asking for. A small faith can believe for small things, but a tested faith can carry miracles. What feels like resistance may actually be preparation. There is power in surrendering your timeline while holding on to your trust. When you release the need to control how, and when you make room for God to do what only He can do. This does not mean you stop believing. It means you believe deeper. You trust not just for the outcome, but for the process. You trust even when you do not understand. The impossible battle you are facing is not proof that God has said no. It may be proof that He is about to reveal His glory in a way that leaves no doubt it was Him. When God moves in impossible situations, no human explanation can take the credit. The victory becomes a testimony not of your strength, but of His faithfulness. Do not underestimate the power of staying faithful in the waiting. Every moment you choose hope over despair, prayer over silence, trust over fear, you are declaring that God is greater than what you see. Heaven responds to persistent faith, not perfect faith, not loud faith, but honest, enduring faith. One day you will look back on this season and realize that the battle did not break you, it built you. The tears did not weaken you, they watered your faith. The waiting did not waste your time, it prepared your heart. And the impossible did not defeat you, it revealed the power of a God who knows exactly what you want and exactly how to bring it to pass. So do not give up now. Do not let go in the middle of the fight. Stand firm. Even if your hands are shaking, keep believing even if your voice trembles. God sees you. God knows you. God understands the battle you are in, and when the time is right, what seems impossible today will become the evidence of His perfect work in your life. God knows the deepest desires of your heart, even the ones you struggle to express in prayer. Long before your lips move, long before your thoughts fully form, God understands what is stirring within you. There are desires you have carried quietly, dreams you have protected because you were afraid they might be misunderstood, and prayers you have buried because you did not want to be disappointed again. Yet none of these are hidden from God. He sees past the surface of your words and looks directly into the depths of your soul, where your truest hopes lie. There are times when you sit in silence, unsure of how to pray, unsure of what to say, feeling as though your faith has been worn thin by waiting. You may feel that your prayers are too weak, too repetitive, or too small to matter. But God does not measure prayer by eloquence. He listens to the cry of the heart. A sigh, a tear, a whispered plea carries just as much weight before Him as the most passionate prayer spoken aloud. When your strength fails, God's understanding does not. Many people believe they must have perfect words to approach God. But the truth is that God is drawn to honesty, not performance. He knows when you are confused, when you are torn between belief and doubt, when you are holding on with trembling hands. Even in your uncertainty, He sees the faith that refuses to let go completely. The desire you are afraid to speak is already known to Him, and He does not turn away because of your fear or weakness. There are desires planted by God Himself, placed in your heart for a purpose greater than you can imagine. These are not random wishes or passing thoughts. They are often connected to your calling, your growth, and your future. When life pressures you to abandon them, God remains faithful to what He started within you. The world may tell you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to stop hoping for what seems out of reach, but God is not limited by what appears possible. You may have tried to pray about your deepest desire and found yourself stopping halfway, unsure whether to continue. Maybe disappointment has taught you to guard your heart. Maybe unanswered prayers have left you cautious. Still, God knows what you are holding back. He knows the prayer you almost prayed. He understands the request you stopped yourself from making. Nothing about you confuses Him, and nothing you long for surprises Him. In moments of weakness, you might think that God is distant because you cannot feel Him. But feelings are not the measure of His presence. God's knowledge of your heart is constant, steady, and unchanging. He sees you in your quiet moments, when faith feels fragile and hope feels heavy. He understands the battle between trusting Him and protecting yourself from more pain. God does not shame you for your desires. He does not accuse you of wanting too much or believing too boldly. He invites you to bring everything to Him, even the desires that feel impossible, even the prayers that feel risky. When you trust God with your deepest longings, you are not burdening Him, you are honoring Him. The heart that dares to desire is a heart that still believes God is able. Even when words fail you, even when prayers feel incomplete, God knows. He knows what you want, why you want it, and how it fits into the plan He is unfolding in your life. The battle between what you see and what you believe is where true faith is formed. Every day, your eyes report one story while your heart listens for another. You see closed doors, unanswered prayers, and circumstances that seem unchangeable. You see limits, delays, and obstacles that stand in the way of what you hoped God would do. Yet deep inside, there is a quiet voice reminding you that God is still able, still faithful, still in control. This tension is not a sign of failure. It is the place where faith begins to take shape. Faith is not born in comfort or certainty. It is forged in moments when evidence is lacking and assurance feels distant. When what you see contradicts what you believe, you are forced to make a choice. Will you trust the visible facts, or will you trust the unseen promises of God? This battle can be exhausting because it challenges your patience, your confidence, and your understanding. But it is in this struggle that faith grows deeper roots. Many people assume that strong faith means never questioning, never struggling, and never feeling afraid. But true faith often walks alongside doubt and fear. It shows up when your heart says God is good, even while your situation says otherwise. It stands firm when circumstances try to convince you that hope is foolish. The battle between sight and belief does not disqualify you. It proves that you are still reaching for God. There are moments when your mind replays the same questions over and over. Why is this taking so long? Why does it seem easier for others? Why does God feel silent now? These questions do not mean you lack faith. They reveal that you care deeply about what you are believing for. God is not threatened by your questions. He sees them as part of your journey, not the end of it. What you see today is not the final chapter of your story. Circumstances are temporary, but God's promises are eternal. When you learn to trust God beyond what your eyes can measure, you begin to understand that faith is not denial of reality. It is confidence in a greater reality that is still unfolding. You acknowledge the struggle without surrendering your hope. This battle often feels lonely because it happens within you. Others may not understand why you keep believing when there is no visible proof. They may encourage you to move on, to accept things as they are, to stop expecting change. But faith is not shaped by popular opinion. It is shaped in the quiet decision to trust God, even when the outcome is uncertain. God allows this tension because it strengthens your dependence on Him. When everything is visible and predictable, faith has little room to grow. But when you are forced to rely on God rather than your own understanding, your trust becomes more genuine and more resilient. You begin to lean not on what you control, but on who God is. In the battle between sight and belief, every moment you choose to trust God is a victory. Even if nothing changes outwardly, something is changing within you. Your faith is being refined, stretched, and deepened in ways that will sustain you for the rest of your journey. What looks like delay or silence is often God working behind the scenes for a greater purpose. There are seasons when prayers seem to rise into the air and return without an answer, moments when heaven feels quiet and God feels distant. You wonder if your words were heard, if your faith was strong enough, if you waited too long or asked for the wrong thing. Silence can feel like rejection, and delay can feel like denial. But with God, neither means abandonment. God's timing rarely matches human urgency. We live by clocks and calendars, measuring progress by days and results by speed. God works by purpose, not pressure. When He appears silent, He may be arranging circumstances, shaping hearts, and preparing outcomes that require time. What feels like waiting is often a season of unseen construction where foundations are being laid for something that must stand strong. Think of the moments in life when you were certain that nothing was happening. You prayed, believed, and hoped, yet everything stayed the same. But later, you realized that those quiet seasons changed you in ways you could not see at the time. Patience grew where impatience once ruled. Strength replaced weakness. Understanding replaced confusion. God was not absent in the silence. He was present in the shaping. Delay has a way of revealing what we truly trust. When answers come quickly, gratitude is easy. When answers take time, trust is tested. God uses delay to draw you closer, to teach you to lean on Him rather than on outcomes. He invites you to believe not just in what He can do, but in who He is. This kind of faith does not depend on immediate results. Silence also creates space for growth. In the quiet, you learn to listen more carefully. You become aware of your own fears, doubts, and expectations. God often speaks most clearly when distractions are removed. What you interpret as silence may actually be an invitation to deepen your relationship with Him, to hear Him in ways you never have before. There are times when God delays because what you are asking for affects more than just you. He sees the full picture, the lives connected to yours, the future impact of the answer you seek. A rushed blessing can become a burden if the timing is wrong. God's wisdom ensures that when the answer comes, it arrives with purpose and protection. You may feel that others are moving ahead while you remain stuck. Their prayers seem answered while yours linger in uncertainty. Comparison can make delay feel even heavier, but God's work in your life is not a competition. Each journey unfolds according to His design. What He is preparing for you requires its own season and its own process. When God is silent, it does not mean He is indifferent. When He delays, it does not mean He has forgotten. His attention remains fixed on you, even when His actions are not immediately visible. The same God who promised is the God who is working, even when you cannot trace His hand. Learning to trust God in silence is one of the deepest acts of faith. It means believing that His goodness does not depend on your ability to see it. It means holding on to hope when there is no evidence yet. In these seasons, God is often doing His most meaningful work, preparing you and the situation for a moment that will make sense only in hindsight. Impossible situations are opportunities for God's power to be revealed without human explanation. When you reach the place where your strength ends, where every option has been exhausted and every solution has failed, you stand on the edge of something sacred. This is the place where human effort steps aside and divine power steps in. What feels like defeat to you is often the setting for God's greatest work. We are taught to rely on ability, planning, and control. From a young age, we learn to measure success by what we can accomplish with our own hands. But God allows impossible situations to remind us that life is not sustained by human power alone. When there is no reasonable explanation, no logical solution, no visible way forward, God reveals Himself in ways that leave no doubt it was His hand at work. Impossible situations strip away pride and self-reliance. They force you to admit that you cannot fix everything, that you cannot carry every burden alone. This surrender is not weakness, it is the doorway to true strength. When you finally let go, you create space for God to move freely. The miracle is not just in the outcome, but in the transformation of your heart. Many people walk away when things become impossible because they assume that failure means God has left. But often the opposite is true. God is closest when the situation feels most hopeless. He steps into moments where there is no room for doubt, where the only explanation left is His power and His grace. These are the moments that become testimonies, not because of what you did, but because of who He is. God does not need ideal conditions to work miracles. He does not require perfect faith, unlimited resources, or flawless circumstances. He works with what you bring, even if all you have left is fear and a fragile hope. In impossible moments, faith is not about confidence, It is about surrender. It is about placing what little you have into God's hands and trusting Him to multiply it. What seems impossible to you is often the very situation God has chosen to display His glory. When He moves in these moments, there is no confusion about the source of the victory. People may question how it happened, but they cannot deny that something greater than human effort was involved. God receives the glory, and faith is strengthened not just in you, but in those who witness the miracle. Impossible situations also realign your perspective. They remind you that life is not about control, but about trust. They teach you that God's power is not limited by what you see or understand. When you survive what you thought would destroy you, your faith becomes unshakable. You realize that if God carried you through this, He can carry you through anything. In the face of impossibility, God invites you to believe beyond reason, not because the outcome is guaranteed on your terms, but because His character is trustworthy. He calls you to stand firm when logic fails, to hope when evidence disappears, and to trust when understanding runs out. These moments redefine faith, shifting it from belief in possibilities to confidence in God Himself. There comes a moment when every lesson, every delay, every silent season begins to gather meaning. You realize that the journey was never just about getting what you wanted, but about discovering who God is in the process of wanting, waiting, and believing. The battles you faced were not random, and the obstacles were not placed in your path to defeat you, but to reveal the depth of God's faithfulness and the strength that was being formed within you. You may not yet see the full picture, but you can trust the one who does. God has been guiding your steps even when you felt lost, holding you steady even when your faith felt weak. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every moment of uncertainty has played a role in shaping your heart. What once felt like confusion is becoming clarity. What once felt like pain is becoming purpose. God knows what you want, but He also knows what will last. He understands your desires, yet He sees beyond the immediate moment into a future that is secure, meaningful, and filled with hope. When He asks you to wait, it is not to test your patience alone, but to prepare you for something greater than you imagine. When He allows you to walk through impossible seasons, it is not to break you, but to build a faith that cannot be shaken by circumstances. There is a peace that comes when you stop fighting God's timing and start trusting His heart. It is the peace of knowing that you are not forgotten, not overlooked, and not delayed by accident. God's plan unfolds with intention, and your life is held within that plan. Even when you do not understand the path, you can be confident that it leads somewhere meaningful. Your story is still being written. What you are experiencing now is not the final chapter. God is still working, still shaping, still preparing moments that will one day make sense. The waiting you endure today will become the testimony you share tomorrow. The faith you cling to in the dark will become the light that guides others. Do not measure God's faithfulness by speed. Measure it by His presence, His consistency, and His promises that never fail. When the answer comes, it will arrive with wisdom and purpose. When the breakthrough happens, it will carry peace rather than fear. When the door opens, you will recognize that it could only have been God. So continue to trust even when the way forward is unclear. Continue to believe even when the battle feels heavy. Continue to hope even when the impossible stands before you. God has not brought you this far to leave you. He knows your heart. He knows your desires, and He knows the perfect time to bring everything together in a way that reveals His glory and secures your future.